My name's Dr. William, and I want to tell you something that might surprise you. The most common advice given to older adults with poor leg circulation is also the one thing that may be slowing your recovery down. Walk more. That is what almost every doctor tells you in those 12 minutes you get. And I want to be clear right from the start, walking is good for you. Keep doing it. But walking alone leaves a real gap. And here is what almost no one explains to you in a 12-minute office visit. There is one specific muscle in your body that does the heavy lifting when it comes to moving blood out of your lower legs and pushing it back up to your heart. And ordinary walking barely switches it on. In my own practice, I have watched patients do everything right. They walked every single day, they propped their feet up at night, they wore their compression socks without complaining, and they still sat down across from me with cold feet, ankles that swelled up like bread dough by evening, a burning ache deep in their calves, and that scary lightheaded feeling when they stood up too fast. They were doing the work. The problem was not moving. And the reason no one had ever sat down and explained it to them properly is exactly why I am making this video today. Drop your age in the comments below. I want to know who is watching this. I read every single one. Here is the part most people do not know. Poor circulation in the legs after 60 is not just a comfort problem. When blood stops moving well through your legs, small cuts and sores heal slowly. They turn into infections, and in the worst cases, people lose toes, sometimes a foot. It is also one of the earliest warning signs that your heart and arteries are under real strain. By age 70, close to 1 in 5 adults has what doctors call peripheral artery disease, which is a narrowing of the arteries that feed the legs. Most of those people have absolutely no idea they have it yet. So this is worth understanding properly. And if you are about to click away because you think you already know the answer, walk more, put your feet up, drink your water, give me 2 more minutes. Because the reason your feet are still cold at night has very little to do with how many steps you logged today. It comes down to a single muscle that most people never think about even once. And once you know how to switch it on, the fix is far simpler than you would ever expect. Now, before I walk you through the 5 movements that do this, I need to explain what is actually happening inside your leg. Because once you understand the mechanism, everything else makes sense immediately. Doctors call it the calf muscle pump. A lot of us call it your second heart. And that is not a cute phrase. It is literally what it is. Every single time your calf muscle tightens, it squeezes down on the deep veins buried inside your lower leg and physically pushes blood upward against gravity, back toward your chest. Tiny one-way valves inside those veins snap shut behind each push so the blood cannot fall back down. That is the pump. That is your second heart. The trouble is, what happens to that pump after 60? The walls of the veins grow weaker and stretchier. Those little valves start to leak. And the calf muscle itself shrinks and loses power, especially if you spend a good part of your day sitting, which most of us do. So the pump slows down. When it slows, blood stalls at your ankles instead of climbing. Swelling gets worse. Feet get colder. The skin down there starts running short on oxygen. And the less you move, the weaker the pump gets, which makes you move even less. It is a slow downward spiral, and a lot of people are somewhere on it right now without knowing it. Here is the genuinely good news. Fixing this does not depend on your step count. It depends on a handful of very specific movements that physically push blood back up where it belongs. I am going to walk you through 5 of them, counting down from 5 to 1. Each one does something the one before it cannot. And I am saving the single most powerful movement for last. The one that vascular rehab programs all over the world rely on more than any other to restore blood flow after 60. If you take only one thing from this entire video, it is going to be number 1, but you will understand it far better if we build up to it together. Now, I want to share something with you before we start the countdown. because everything you are about to learn is one piece of a much larger picture. We have already covered how the calf pump works, why it slows down with age, and why walking alone is not enough to fix it. That is real, useful information. And there is much more where that came from. I put together something called the Complete Senior Health Vault, which includes the full, plain English guides your visit never had time for, covering the medications worth questioning, the foods that work like medicine, and a complete manual for understanding your body after 70. You will find the link in the description, or you can scan the code on your screen right now to get there directly and stay with me because the most important movement in this entire list is still coming. And it is the one I would choose without hesitation. If you told me you only had time for one, let me tell you about someone I will call Donna74 from Columbus. She is a blend of several patients I have cared for, so no one's privacy is at risk here. Donna was sharp, still driving, still hosting her grandkids on Sundays, but her feet were cold every single night, even in July, and her ankles turned puffy by dinner time. She had been faithfully walking a mile a day for years and was quietly heartbroken that it was not helping. Keep Donna in the back of your mind. What finally changed things for her is the entire point of this video. Number 5, ankle pumps. This one looks almost too simple to take seriously. That is exactly why most people wave it off. But here is what they do not know. Ankle pumps are often the very first movement given to patients after leg surgery before they are even allowed to stand up because it keeps blood from pooling while they heal. Here is why it works. When you flex your foot up and then point it down, your calf contracts and relaxes. That motion squeezes the veins and moves blood that has been sitting stagnant around your ankles. A review published in the Journal of Orthopedic Surgery and Research gathered 16 separate randomized trials and found that simple ankle pumping improved blood flow back up the leg and reduced lower leg swelling in older adults with no standing and no walking required at all. To do it right, sit in a sturdy chair with both feet flat on the floor. Lift your toes up toward your shins while your heels stay planted. Then reverse it. Press your toes down and lift your heels. The same motion as easing onto a gas pedal. Slow and deliberate. That is one repetition. Aim for 20 to 30 of them 2 or 3 times a day. You can do this while you watch television, while you wait for the kettle, while you sit at the kitchen table after dinner. Think about how many hours each day you spend sitting. Every one of those hours, your pump is switched off and blood is settling in your feet. Ankle pumps switch it back on without you even leaving your chair. Walking runs on momentum. Your calves barely get a full squeeze out of it. Ankle pumps make the muscle genuinely contract and push. That means warmer feet, less swelling, and less pressure on those fragile vein walls. But ankle pumps only wake the system up. The next movement goes after the bigger muscles higher up your leg. Number 4, seated leg lifts. If you are thinking that sitting down makes this one easy, your legs are going to tell you a very different story about 10 seconds in. When you straighten your leg out in front of you and hold it there, you fire the large muscles across the front of your thigh and the muscles at the front of your hip. Those are the exact muscles you rely on to stand up from a chair, to climb a step, to catch yourself when you start to go down. When they contract, they press on the large veins running up through your thigh and help drive blood out of the leg. Here is the piece that makes it click. Geriatric doctors track something called gait speed, simply how fast you walk. They call it the 6th vital sign, right alongside your pulse and your blood pressure, because how fast you walk turns out to predict your fall risk, your independence, and even how long you are likely to live. When walking slows down, it is often one of the very first signals that the body is quietly losing ground. Strengthening the muscles that carry you is exactly how you defend that ground. To do it, sit up tall in a sturdy chair with your back firmly against the seat and both feet flat on the floor. Slowly lift one leg straight out in front of you, keeping the knee as straight as is comfortable. Hold it for 2 seconds, then lower it back down slowly without letting the foot drop. That is one repetition. Do 10 to 15 on one side, then switch. The detail almost everyone misses is the back. Keep it pressed against the chair so you cannot cheat by rocking forward. That is what forces the right muscles to do the actual work. As this gets easier, add a light ankle weight or a resistance band. Even 1 or 2 pounds makes a real difference. Muscle responds to gentle, steady load at any age. This movement builds the strength that keeps you walking, and it moves blood through the upper leg in a way that ankle pumps alone can never reach. But even strong thighs will not protect you if your balance system is not firing the way it should. And that is exactly where we go next. Number 3, the supported calf raise. This one trains your circulation and your balance at the exact same time. And balance is the thing that quietly decides whether a person keeps their independence or slowly loses it. The National Institute on Aging is very direct on this point. Keeping your lower body muscles strong is one of the best things you can do to hold on to your mobility as you get older. To keep rising from chairs, to manage stairs without needing a hand, your calves sit right at the center of that. Every time they contract, they squeeze those deep veins and force blood upward against gravity. Weak calves mean blood pools, swelling climbs, and your balance reactions get a little slower. So an ordinary stumble becomes far more likely to turn into an actual fall. If this has been useful so far, I want to ask a small favor right here. Subscribe so the next one finds its way to you. Tap the like button and leave me a comment telling me which of these 5 movements you are planning to start with today. I read every single comment that comes in, and it genuinely shapes what I make for you next. The code is still there on your screen if you want to visit the vault while we keep going. To do a supported calf raise, stand behind a sturdy chair or at a kitchen counter with your hands resting on it lightly for balance. Feet about hip width apart. Rise up slowly onto the balls of your feet, lifting your heels as high as is comfortable. At the very top, pause for 2 to 3 seconds, eyes looking straight ahead rather than down at your feet. Then lower yourself back down slowly, taking a full 3 seconds to come all the way down. That slow descent and that pause at the top are where the real work happens. They make your calf muscles and your balance system fire together, which is precisely what your body has to do when it catches itself mid-stumble. Start with 10 repetitions and build toward 20 or 25 as you get stronger. Over just a few weeks, this single movement improves your ankle stability, your circulation, and your reaction speed all at once. And it does all of that without pounding on your knees or your hips. For many people I have cared for, this is the one that first made them feel genuinely steady on their feet again. But standing on 2 feet is the gentle version. The next movement takes one of them away. Number 2, the single leg stance hold. Before you wave this one off as just balance training with nothing to do with your blood, let me give you the number that made me take it completely seriously. In 2022, researchers publishing in the British Journal of Sports Medicine followed more than 1,700 adults for several years. They found that people who could not stand on one leg for just 10 seconds had an 84% higher risk of dying over the years that followed, compared with those who could hold it 84%. And among adults in their early 70s, fewer than half could pass that simple test. A 10-second balance check told those researchers more about what lay ahead than almost anything else they measured. You can try it right now, carefully with a counter or a solid chair right beside you. Stand tall, put one hand near something you can grab, lift 1 foot an inch or 2 off the floor, and see whether you can hold it steady for 10 seconds without grabbing on. That is the test. And it also happens to be the exercise. The reason it does so much for your blood flow comes down to sustained time. The instant you stand on one leg, your calf, your ankle, your hip, and your core all have to contract and keep contracting to hold you upright. That continuous squeeze keeps the pump running the entire time, pushing blood up instead of letting it settle back down into your foot. Ordinary walking never asks for that. You are on one foot for a fraction of a second, and then you are off it again. Standing on one leg forces the pump to stay switched on. And this is the spot where circulation and fall prevention completely overlap. When balance fades, people move less. When movement drops, blood flow slows, swelling rises, the feet ache more, confidence drains away. That is the very spiral we talked about at the beginning. To train it safely, stand next to a counter or a wall with one hand resting lightly on it. Shift your weight onto one leg and lift the other foot just 1 inch off the floor. You do not need to lift it high. Stand tall, eyes forward, and do not curl your toes to grip the ground. Hold for 20 to 30 seconds, breathing normally, then switch legs. That is one set. Start with 2 rounds on each side. As it gets easier, rest your hand on the counter more and more lightly until you can hover it just above the surface without actually touching. The longer, steadier squeeze keeps blood moving and retrains your nerves to react faster the next time you trip. But balance on its own keeps you upright without fully restoring the flow. For that, you need the single strongest version of the calf pump there is. Number one, the standing calf pump hold. This is the movement I promised you at the very beginning. And once you understand what it is doing inside your leg, you will see exactly why vascular rehab programs around the entire world use it almost the way they would use a prescription. It looks a lot like the calf raise from number 3, with one small difference that changes everything. The hold, you rise up onto the balls of your feet and you stay right there. Your calves work like pressure pumps, and holding at the top keeps that pump fully squeezed long enough to actually clear out the blood that has been stalling around your ankles and drive it up toward your heart. Ankle pumps wake the system up. The single leg hold trains your control. This movement moves the most blood of all, and it keeps it moving. And the evidence behind it is real. In a randomized trial published in the Journal of Vascular Surgery, people with genuinely poor leg circulation who completed a simple program built around calf raise exercise were able to walk significantly farther before pain set in. Their pain-free walking distance improved by dozens of meters and their total walking distance by close to 100 meters. No medication, no machine. Here is how to do it safely. Stand behind a chair or at a counter, hands resting there for balance, feet about hip width apart. Rise up slowly onto the balls of your feet, heels lifting as high as is comfortable. Now hold it 3 to 5 seconds right at the top, breathing normally, eyes forward. Then lower yourself back down slowly, about 3 seconds all the way to the floor. That is one repetition. Start with 8 to 10. Work toward 15 or 20 over time, always with control, never rushing. The hold is the entire point. That sustained squeeze keeps the pump fully engaged, drives the blood up, brings the swelling down, and strengthens the exact muscles your body reaches for when you start to go down. And because there is no jumping or pounding anywhere in it, it is gentle enough for most people dealing with arthritis or shaky balance, as long as you keep one hand on that counter. Now, let me tell you what happened with Donna, because this is where everything came together for her. I had her stop obsessing over her step count and instead work through these 5 movements in order, about 12 minutes a day total. Ankle pumps in her chair first thing in the morning, seated leg lifts next, supported calf raises at the kitchen counter while her coffee brewed, the balance holds, and the standing calf pump hold at the very end. I am going to be honest with you about her result, because I always am. Her circulation did not become a 30-year-old's overnight. I would never promise you that. But within a few weeks, her ankles were no longer swelling up by dinner. Her feet were warmer at night. And the thing she told me she cared about most, she stopped feeling like she might tip over when she got up off the couch. She felt steady again. For a woman who had been quietly terrified of falling, that was everything. One honest caution before I send you off, because I would much rather you be safe than sorry. If you ever get sudden, severe pain in one leg, or a leg turns pale and cold and numb out of nowhere, or you have a sore on your foot or ankle that simply will not heal, do not sit home doing exercises. Get seen quickly. That can mean an artery is seriously blocked, and that is a medical emergency. Everything I've shown you today is for the slow, chronic, everyday kind of poor circulation, not for a sudden crisis like that. Never stop a medication on your own. Bring it to your doctor. And always talk to your own physician before starting a new exercise program, especially if you have a history of heart disease, vascular problems, or recent surgery. This video is education, not a substitute for a visit with your own doctor who knows your full history. So there they are, 5 movements that wake up your second heart and get blood moving back out of your legs. A fast recap. Number 5, ankle pumps to wake the pump up. Number 4, seated leg lifts to move blood up through the thighs. Number 3, supported calf raises for circulation and balance working together. Number 2, the single leg stance hold for that long sustained squeeze and the steadiness that keeps you upright. And number 1, the standing calf pump hold, the most powerful of all 5, the one I would pick without hesitation if you told me you only had time for one. Keep walking. Walking is wonderful, and I never want you to stop. But walking alone leaves a real gap, and these 5 movements are what fill it. They take less than 15 minutes a day. They cost you nothing. And you can do every single one of them at home, right in front of the television if you like. Your circulation is one of the very few things about getting older where you actually get a real vote. This is how you cast it. In my 15 years of practice, I have seen simple daily habits like these make the difference between someone who is walking strong at 80 and someone reaching for a cane at 70. The gap between those two futures is smaller than most people think. And it starts with these 12 minutes. Drop your age in the comments and tell me which of these 5 movements you are going to start with first. I read every single one. And if you want to go deeper on everything that supports your legs, your heart, and your independence in these years, the complete Senior Health Vault has the medications worth questioning, the foods that work like medicine, and the full guide to your body after 70, all in plain English, all in one place. The link is in the description, and the code is still on your screen. I made a video that goes into exactly what happens inside your arteries as you age and the specific foods that help keep them open. I will put it right here on your screen. Go watch that one next. I'm Dr. William. Take good care of those legs. They have carried you this far. With just a few honest minutes a day, they will carry you a good while longer.